Hello everyone, this is Joyce Twing, faculty in the business department. The purpose of this video is to give you an overview of how to use Zoom as a participant. Now, probably most of us did not count on attending our fall classes via Zoom, and perhaps most of us would prefer to be in a face-to-face classroom. But there are some advantages to taking our fall classes via Zoom. First of all, we don't have to spend any time commitment or any gas money to get to our classes. We don't have to wear masks, and even more important than that, we're using a skill that is going to be extremely useful in the workplace. Businesses have for a long time used virtual meetings. And recently, almost all businesses have had to use virtual meetings. So not everybody uses Zoom. Some businesses have their own proprietary software for virtual meetings. Some businesses use Zoom, and there certainly are lots of other options. So during this video, I'm going to show you some of the functionality of Zoom, but I'm also going to talk about some tips that will be useful in any virtual meeting environment. So first of all, we need to know how we are going to access the Zoom meeting or the Zoom class. Now, typically that will be one of two ways. You may get the invitation via email from your teacher, and you'll just click on the link that goes to the Zoom meeting. Or your teacher may do what I've done here, which is to put the Zoom app right in the campus class. So when I open this, you'll see I have a meeting scheduled, and all you would have to do is just join the meeting. So those are the two primary ways that you would get the invitation to join your Zoom class. So let me open Zoom here and start a meeting. All right, so you're going to see this prompt that says join with computer audio. I'm going to do that. Now, it's possible to have an external microphone, and I'll show you in a minute what you would do if that were the case. But first of all, I want to talk about sort of your virtual environment. Best case scenario, you'll have full light in the room where you are. The reason for that is so that your colleagues in the meeting or in the class can actually see you. They can see your facial expressions, they can see your eye contact, all of those things, which we would want to do if we were in an actual class or an actual meeting. Now, what some people do is put a bright light behind them and have either low light or no light in front of them. If I were to, even though I'm in a fully lighted room here, just natural light, if I were to turn my computer around, I've got two windows to my left that look out onto the hill behind my house. If I were to turn my computer around and use that as my background, I would turn into a shadow figure. Now, a shadow figure is not your best look, especially if you want people to be able to see your eye contact and see your expressions. So try to have either full light or light in front of you, not light behind you. And another thing about the background of your Zoom environment, be sure that there is nothing in your background that would be inappropriate for the audience to see. So posters on your wall or that sort of thing, just take a quick look around to be sure that everything that is behind you that the camera will see is something that would be appropriate and at least not unprofessional. So let's look at some of the actual functions of Zoom. Now, you'll see here that you don't see anything, but when you hover your mouse, you see all of these functions of Zoom. So over here is the mic. If you were using an external microphone, you would click here and you would set that external microphone up. Now, if you want to mute your microphone, and if you're in a meeting and you're not talking, you should mute your microphone so background noise won't be bothering others in the class. And you would just click it to mute it and then deselect it. I'm actually recording with Camtasia here, so hopefully my Camtasia recording is working when I'm muting my Zoom. Now here's a Zoom video. You work it the same way. If I click this will click to just a profile picture of me. Sometimes it's appropriate to just use a profile picture screen, but if you're in a class meeting or in a workplace meeting where people are discussing things and you're part of the discussion, then you should keep your camera on. It's the polite thing to do. Just like you wouldn't be invisible in a classroom, you don't want to be invisible in the virtual meeting room. Now let me show you something that I'm not sure all computers do this. If your computer is, maybe not as new as it might be, I don't know if you can do this, but you can change your background. So if you're in an environment where, you say, well, this isn't the most professional environment, then you can click here and you can say, choose a virtual background. And Zoom will give you some kind of stock backgrounds, and you can use almost any picture. So I've uploaded a couple of pictures of the sunset on the hill behind my house. So I'll put this one on. Now, watch what happens. I don't love virtual backgrounds because it takes all the depth away from the person. So you can see how this kind of jams me right up against the background. You see this a lot with TV news anchors and weather people, weather reporters, that they have a virtual background behind them. And so, they look to me just a little bit strange. But some people like virtual backgrounds, and a virtual background is better than an inappropriate background. So we'll go back here to virtual background, and I'll just turn mine off. So here I am in my kitchen again. So if we look across here, you'll see that I am the only participant in this meeting. This is chat. This works just like any chat. You can click here and you can send a chat message to the entire class. And typically if the virtual class is being recorded or the virtual meeting, the chat is being recorded. So certainly you don't want to chat anything that wouldn't be appropriate for everybody to see. Now we're going to look at sharing our screen. You may never need to do this in your class. It is typically something that managers at least would do in meetings. But for my classes, they include oral presentations, so students will need to share their PowerPoint slides. Now, the first thing I would say is if you are going to share a file in a meeting or in a class, make sure you have that readily available. There's nothing worse than everybody sitting and waiting for somebody to find their file. So have your file available. I have mine opened, PowerPoint file opened here on my taskbar, so I can just grab it quickly. So you'll say here, now the teacher will have to give you permission to share your screen, and if the teacher wants you to share your screen, you'll have that permission. So we'll say share screen, and now you have some options. You'll see I can share only a file. I can share my entire screen. So I'm going to show you first what happens if I share my entire screen. So I'm going to click what I want to share, and I'm going to say share. And now you can see over here that you can see my desktop. Now this is a fairly new computer, so my desktop looks pretty good. But if you have a desktop that is all messy with all sorts of things on it, or if you have a desktop that may have some inappropriate things or unprofessional things, at least for the arena you're in, here's a little magic trick that not everybody knows about. If you right-click your mouse and say View, you can see how it says Show Desktop Icons. If you just click that, everything on your desktop will disappear, and you'll have a nice, clean desktop. Now, don't forget that when you're done, you may want to show those again, so you won't get to your computer and turn it on and think that you've lost everything on your desktop. But it's kind of a nice trick that you can use. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to select my PowerPoint slides. And I'm going to share that screen. And you'll see that I have some options up here, and I can stop sharing at any time and see what happened to me when I started sharing this. Now, you can't use the F5 function key option to open your PowerPoint slides here, but you can use your typical open your slides here. And now you'll see that you can have your face here. You can move your face around wherever you want it to be. You can put it over here, depending on your slides. You can put your face wherever you want it to be. And you can show your slides and look at the audience and talk to the audience. The rules still are the same. Don't read your slides, even though you're in a virtual meeting and they're right smack in front of you. Try to be talking and be comfortable rather than just reading your slides. So that is how you do that. And when you're finished, you'll say stop share, and it will bring you back here to you. All right, so now let's think just for a minute about some of the rules of participation in a professional Zoom meeting or any virtual meeting. And they're basically the same as they are in a face-to-face meeting. So first of all, turn your camera on. Now, if you're in a meeting of 200 people and someone is just giving a lecture or a talk, then it may be fine for you to turn your camera off. But keep your camera on so you can talk to everyone, they can see you, and then mute your microphone when you are not talking. Because if you have even as many as 4 or 5 people in a meeting and everyone has their microphone on, then it can become really noisy in the background. So be polite, turn your microphone off when you're not talking, and then when you want to talk, just turn your microphone on again. And obviously, you don't want to be doing anything except paying attention to the meeting. You don't want to be getting up and doing things. You want to be sitting and paying attention exactly the same way you would in a classroom or in a professional meeting. And all of the rules of professional behavior, not interrupting and being respectful of everyone, all of those rules that apply in any environment apply in a virtual environment. So many of your teachers are probably going to plan to have synchronous required Zoom classes in the time that those classes are scheduled on your fall semester schedule. So when you hear remote delivery, you shouldn't immediately assume that that means you can work extra hours, that your class hours on your schedule don't mean anything. Now, it depends on your teacher. That could be true, but your teacher should be getting in touch with you and letting you know these are times that we will have synchronous Zoom meetings, and you will be expected to attend the same way you would be expected to attend a classroom or expected to attend a required meeting in the workplace. So again, these rules are not just specific to us having remote delivery for the fall semester. These are specific to professional workplaces, and the better job you do in a virtual environment, the same thing as the better job you do in a face-to-face environment, the more credibility you're going to have, the more professional you are going to be. So hopefully this has been valuable for you, and I hope you will have a wonderful semester.